Howdy y'all, welcome to the Booth Western Art Museum's Facebook page and my home studio. My name is Lynette. I'm the Education Outreach Coordinator at the museum. I'm so excited y'all are joining me again for another live art lesson. Now, I hope some of y'all are joining me after you've watched a video by our Director of Education, Patty Dees. She's been uploading a weekly book and art recommendation video, and this week she recommended an amazing book by Dr. Seuss. It's called The Horse Museum, and it's illustrated by a Australian illustrator, Andrew Joyner. It is an awesome book. It talks about how museums and artists portray horses in a million different ways, and they have for a long time. And I like to think that the booth is kind of its own horse museum, because when I take kids on tours of the museum, a lot of them will notice there's a lot of horses in these paintings, huh? And there are, and that's because we're a Western art museum, so during westward expansion, we needed horses to carry buggies out west, and cowboys used horses to herd cattle, and American Indians used horses for transportation and cultural purposes. So there's a lot of horses in our museum. So I think it's only fitting that since we're talking about the horse museum, Patty was talking about the book, The Horse Museum, and that we have so many horses in our collection that we draw a horse today. So, some words of encouragement before we get started. You can use whatever materials you have. I used what I have just around the house, so you just look around your house and see what you find, and anything that I use is just a suggestion. You do not have to use the things that I'm using. You can do whatever you want. And I'm not even, yours doesn't have to look like mine, because I'm even going to draw mine differently than I did this time. So I want to experiment and take risks and be bold, so you can do exactly the same thing. So, let's see. Make sure I didn't forget anything. And yeah, hopefully we'll have a good time doing this. I'm very excited. I love doing these videos, so I'm excited to create another horse with y'all today. And this is just for fun, it's for practice, it's to grow your artistic skills. So, without further ado, let's get started, and you're going to get a nice panoramic view of my ceiling as I switch the camera to the table in front of me. Let's see, here we go. I can never find the button. There we go. Make sure it's set up all nice. Yeah. Alrighty. Let's see, sorry, I'm making sure it's very good. Excellent. Okay, so the stuff I have today. So this is my little art toolbox of stuff that I have. I've got a color wheel and a value scale that I'll probably use later. And the first off, what I want to pull out is just a normal pencil and a bigger eraser in case I make bigger mistakes, and a pencil sharpener. So those are the main things that I'm using. Everything else in here is just what I was saying are the suggestions. Crayons, pencils, markers. Now the first thing I'm going to do in my drawing today, which I haven't actually done this, but I'm actually going to use a tool, which again, it's not necessarily a tool. But I have this giant roll of tape. My husband is an AV tech, so he has these huge rolls of tape they use. But basically, I'm using this because I want to use the inside and the outside of this to trace some circles. So you can use a cup, a bowl, a mug, whatever you have lying around that's going to be good for you to trace some circles. So this tape works perfectly because it's got the small hole on the inside, a big one on the outside for me to use. So how I'm going to use this is I'm actually going to start creating some lines and shapes for the horse. So the first thing I actually want to do is I'm going to use this small inside circle to draw right here. So almost like the muzzle of the horse. And then I'm going to draw a circle kind of on top to draw like the top of the head. So I will illustrate what that's going to look like. So you're just going to kind of, and if you don't have a circle, you can just draw a circle if you're very confident. And normally I am very confident in drawing circles, but I just thought this would make my life a little bit easier today. So there we go. So I'm starting with drawing two small circles in the middle of your paper, kind of at the top, kind of at the bottom. And then I'm going to draw a bigger one. And this one's going to overlap with my small circle. Ooh. There you go. So this is basically all I was using the circle for, because I wanted to draw a small circle here, a small circle down here, and then one big one, and that's going to be, here, I'll show you just so you can get an idea. That's going to be like the big circle part of the face. So, now that we've got our circles drawn, let's do our outline work. So, as I've said in my other videos, probably, we just want to draw the very important lines of our horse. So I'm actually going to start by drawing around the head. It's kind of a weird shape, which is why I wanted to draw the circles here to help us get an idea. But basically what you're going to do is kind of here where these two lines connect, you're going to draw a line here, you're going to draw a line here at the same, you're just basically connecting these two circles. And then you're going to kind of go from the outside of this circle to the outside of this one. And kind of curve in. Because the horse's face is really, it's very long, and then it gets skinnier as you get towards the mouth. So you want to draw a curved line that kind of connects those two. And then that basically, now that this circle's here, this one's at the top, we have the basic outline of the head of our horse, which is excellent. So now, the next thing I'm actually going to draw is the ears, because the ears kind of help me figure out where other things are going to go. So, horse's ears, they're nice and pointy, so I'm actually going to go where this circle kind of is with this line, and that's where I'm going to start my ear. I'm going to kind of curve, make a little hill at the top, and there's no rhyme or reason. I'm not looking at a picture of a horse. I'm looking at this one. But I'm just kind of guessing. Like, I think this is what a horse's ear would probably look like. But you know what? Every horse looks a little bit different. So even though if your horse doesn't look like my horse, it probably looks like a different horse. So now that we've got the ears, and I also drew these other little lines right here, just to kind of look like the ear is kind of folded a little bit and rounded. So I'll just go ahead and add that. Now we want to add like the neck of the horse, which basically I like to put it where the ear kind of hits the face. Just draw a diagonal line off the page here. Draw a diagonal line off the page here. And you know what? I'm actually changed my mind. I want to put my line on this side, because then, yeah, I'm just lining this up with the middle of the muzzle here. And then when they're finished, my horses will be like, they'll be kind of looking at each other. That'll be nice. Or they're kind of like, maybe it's a two-headed horse. I don't know. All right, so we've got the neck, we've got the ears. So now I want to draw the mane of the horse. So you've got kind of the tuft here at the top, and then you've also got the mane at the side. And when I draw the mane, I like to do just some curved diagonal, almost zigzaggy lines, if that helps. And this part at the top is actually, I believe it's called the forelock. So for the forelock, what you're going to do is kind of the same thing, but I liked doing it where you got a little bit of a longer, pointier piece kind of when you get closer to the nose and eyes, and then it kind of goes out from there. I think if you looked at it upside down, this kind of reminds me of like a campfire sort of thing. So, and then I'm actually gonna draw another circle that's gonna be like the same mimicking line of this one, but basically it's just gonna make it look like the hair is sitting on top of the head. Here we go. Alright, we're getting close. So, the last important things that I'm going to need are the nose and the eyes. So for the nose, when I drew these nose, I was kind of thinking they look kind of like beans. So, but if you've got another way that you like to draw nostrils, you can definitely do that. You could even do like a swirl even. That kind of reminds me of a cow, which, it's not a bad thing. I'm going to stick with my beans, though. So, you basically have these two rounded edges that you connect. Maybe I should name the horse Beans. That's a pretty good name. Okay, so now that we've got that, we got to do the eyes. Now, if you've got a way that you like to draw eyes, absolutely go for it. How I drew the horse's eyes, now the one thing with horses is their eyes are like on the side of their head, so you're not going to want to put your eyes super close together unless you think it looks funny, and absolutely do that. But if you want to draw it kind of accurately, you want them to be on the side of the head. And how I like to do that, this is almost like a curved, like a check mark almost, just upside down. So I'm going to draw two on the sides there, and then you're going to do like the same shape, just smaller and like on the inside. It's kind of weird. It's like reversed, but also smaller, and then also on the inside. It's a little bit complicated, but that's okay. All right, let's see. There we go. There we go. And see, my eyes aren't even. I'm going to leave it, because I don't care. And I'm going to give a little shiny white part of the eye in there. And now that you've got this, the basic shapes of your horse done, you can actually go back now and erase these circles, because we don't need them anymore. They were good to us. They got us the hard part. I did it, guys. I threw my pencil once a video. So they got us to the outline of the horse's head, and now we're done with it. We can get rid of it. So now you can start adding if you want to add any cool shapes. When I drew this one, I actually found this, if I can grab it, this fun diagram online that kind of has the different, I actually didn't know that there were different names for all these different markings that a horse's head can have. So on the horse in my example, I used the star. So the star is like almost that shape in between the horse's eyes, but it also goes down a little bit, like the stripe here. So it's a combination of these two. I think for this one, I'm actually going to go with this blaze look. So I'm going to have like, oop. All right, cool. I didn't bonk it too much. So it actually kind of goes out from here and then kind of creates like a stripe down to the middle of the nose. There you go. So, and then if you want to add any other shapes, you can. Some of these other detail lines I actually did with a marker later on. So I'm actually going to go ahead and use a Sharpie and outline my pencil lines, because I want them to be bold and to really stand out in my drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And while I'm doing some outlining, I'm going to give you guys some, I've been doing some research on horses for another project that I've been working on. And there, you know what? There's some really cool facts about horses out there. Especially horses in America. So horses, they lived in America, millions of years ago. And then they actually migrated to Europe and Asia and became extinct in America. And part of this was, people don't actually know for sure, because it was a long, long time ago. But it could have been that the climate changed and it got cold and they moved somewhere else. Or maybe people came and they didn't like the people, so they left. But the horses returned to America with Christopher Columbus when he brought them on his voyage in 1493. Whoop, there we go. And then also a little bit later on, Spanish conquistadors like Hernan Cortez brought large numbers of horses in America to the American Southwest, specifically in like 1519. And that's how Southwest American Indian tribes got horses, as they would trade with the Spanish conquistadors. And then horses are very ingrained in the identity and culture of a lot of American Indian tribes. I actually feel like when I first started working at the museum, I don't think I knew that horses weren't always in America. And when I tell kids that when they're on tours, a lot of times they'll ask me, well, what did, like, American Indians, what did they use before they had horses? And before they had horses, they actually would use, like, if they needed help carrying something from one place to another, a lot of times they would actually use dogs. And the dogs would, like, pull stuff for them. But horses are very versatile, and they can be used in a lot of different ways. So that's kind of why they started using horses so much, is because they're very handy. They're very powerful animals, and they can be used in a lot of different ways. They're very important to the history of America in that it helped us travel across the continent and explore new places, like during westward expansion. And also, before, you know, we had trains and cars. That's kind of what we'd use them for. And right now, while I'm drawing, I'm actually going to go back and I'm actually going to create some thicker and thinner lines with my drawings. So on kind of these important lines, like the outside of the horse, I'm going to go back over it with a Sharpie, make them thicker to emphasize them more. Go. Let's see, are there any other things I want to mention about horses? Well, obviously, I think when you think of the museum, you think of cowboys, and cowboys used horses a lot because they would need to herd cattle to the trailheads where the railroads were, and so they would use the horses to herd cattle. So they were super important in the history of the American West. I think I've done all the lines I want to do. Horses are still used today too. Actually, here, I will use this as a transition. So I'm happy with my outline, so I want to start coloring. Before I start coloring, I wanted to talk about a couple of artists that we have in our collection that inspired me to kind of create the piece in this way. So if you watch the video that our Director of Education, Patty Dees, talked about, she mentioned some of these artworks that we have in the collection. Let me spread them out. So this is actually one that I was thinking of. So this is a local artist. She's from Georgia, or she's not from Georgia, but she lives in Georgia now. Her name is Amy Wilmoth Watts. And this is a really awesome painting because it tells the history of the horse. Kind of what I was talking about, how the Spanish conquistadors came to America and the American Indians got the horses from them, and how horses were used, you know, in like the Civil War. There's also a little prairie schooner over here and somebody using it to plow agriculture. So, and Amy Wilmoth Watts, she actually ranches horses. So she's someone today that is using and working with horses. We also have these lots of different ways that people have portrayed horses. This is actually, I would say, like top 5 favorite pieces in the museum, actually. For me, I love this piece because it is a huge, like, I'm like 5 feet 4 inches, and this horse is like about as tall as I am. So it's this like really big bronze sculpture of like an origami horse. And normally when you think of origami, it's made out of paper, it's very fragile, it's small. And so I think this is like, it's like the opposite, and it's just a different way of portraying a horse than some of these other paintings and sculptures. Now, the one that actually inspired my drawing for today is this one, which is a painting by artist John Nieto. Now, John Nieto is of Hispanic and American Indian ancestry, and he is known in his artwork for using really bright, vivid colors, and I love this painting so much. My printer does not, and the picture I took does not do this painting justice. It is so bright. It's got these nice flat colors of like orange and blue, and the thing I love most is the horse is purple. I've never seen a purple horse, but I love that John Nieto decided to create this horse in a different way than you would normally see it, because it makes you look at the horse in a different way. So that's kind of why I decided to do a purple horse, almost as an homage to this one. But also, another reason why I decided to specifically use purple and yellow is because they're complementary colors. Now, let me grab my color wheel really quick. Whoop. All right. So complementary colors, if you're looking at a color wheel, which is just a tool the artists use to help them decide what colors look really good next to each other, the complementary colors are the colors that are directly across from each other on the color wheel. So like green and red are good examples of complementary colors. The idea is that they are absolute, like they're as opposite as you can get on the color wheel. They're way across from each other, but when you put the colors right next to each other, they create a lot of contrast and they look really interesting. So on my example, I used purple and yellow because they are also directly across from each other on the color wheel. So actually, for my example that I'm going to do right now, I decided ahead of time I'm going to do orange and blue just to show what another complementary color of the horse would look like. So also on like John Nieto's piece, you can kind of see he's got like orange and blue right next to each other. So a lot of times putting these complements right next to each other. Also, I don't know how well you can see it, but on the horse, he also used this yellow outline, which I love because on a lot of my drawings, I've been using black outlines, but you can use whatever color you want. You can use yellow, really anything, because a lot of times we think you have to use black, but that's just not true. So I think I said everything I wanted to say about complementary colors. A lot of times you'll see, and here I will, how about this? Well, I'm going to still keep this here. I'm just going to make my table very cluttered. So a lot of times you will see sports teams use complementary colors for their like jerseys and designs because it just looks really interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna use, since I wanted to use blue and orange, what I'm actually gonna do is just pull out all of the orange and blue that I have of like all the materials that I have. Because sometimes it's like, oh, well, I have this blue marker that's a nice shade, but then my blue crayon is a different shade. So, okay. I feel a little bit blind doing this. I should have done this ahead of time. That's okay. So, actually, here, when we do this, and we'll move all these over here. It's a mess. But it's a beautiful mess. Okay. Cool. All right. Excellent. Make sure you can see some stuff. So, one thing when I was drawing this one that I had a lot of fun with, which I was going to recommend, is I actually used these kind of darker purple circles. I actually used a marker. And maybe on this one I'll do like some X marks, just to be different. And I actually used marker, and then I colored over it with, I used purple marker, and then I used purple crayon. So that's just a way that you can use, a lot of fancy artists like to call this mixed media. And media is just the different tools that you use to create art. So mixed media is this idea that you are using a variety of materials to create your work. So that's kind of why I like this idea of using markers and crayons, and I think I use color pencil in this too. And there's Sharpie. Oh my goodness. We're just getting so many colors in here. Okay, so I'll really quickly kind of show you what this is going to look like. And I'm going to use, this is like a blue-green, which I've used, I think, in some of my other drawings. Oh, it looks so nice. And see, look at that. And because we did the crayon, or the marker first, the crayon goes right over it. Now, just as a pro tip, crayons are, they're wax, so sometimes if you go back on top with a marker, it's not gonna go on quite as well. And sometimes it's not doing it now, but sometimes it'll smear. So that's just another way if you want to make sure the color is bright, put the marker on first. But if you want to experiment with your materials, maybe try to layer them in different ways, which is just the idea of laying colors on top of one another in new and interesting ways. Let's see. I'm going to color a little bit more, even though I've only got a couple minutes left. Also, I forgot to ask for any suggestions during this video, but if you were watching me draw and you were saying, it would be cool if, like, maybe she had put a flower on the horse, or maybe done these colors, or, you know, maybe I could have added something into the background to draw later. Maybe if you had those ideas, maybe you should add them into your own drawings. I don't have tons of time today because I want to just do a quick lesson for y'all. But if you have something that is going to take you a long time to draw, you know, you can always come back to this drawing later. You know, you could start it today and maybe pick it back up tomorrow with a fresh set of eyes. And see, look at this. I used this lighter blue and then layered this kind of darker blue on top of it, and it gives it like a cool effect. I was just experimenting with it. Alright. Excellent. Yeah, I think I'm going to do kind of like what I did on this one, where I make the horse blue and the main orange. But I'm almost out of time, so I'm actually going to flip my camera back over. Oh, actually, I almost forgot. I think I did this last time. The most important thing you do when you're finished with your drawing is you write your name on it, which I think is why last time I forgot about it, because I wasn't finished. But the video's going to finish, so I'm going to write it on there just so you don't forget. Because the idea is that you want people to know that this is your piece and that you made this. And so you want to make sure you sign it. Now, a lot of artists will just put their name. And see, look, even on this one, I forgot to put my name on it. Look at that. What am I doing? So on this one, you can hide your name somewhere in the drawing. Or you can just write it in the corner. I actually think I'm going to put mine up here. Hide it in with the main, so that then when I color it, it'll kind of be hidden in there. So there we go. Okay. So I'm going to flip my camera back around so you'll get a nice view of my ceiling. Okay. Perfect. Ah. I want you to fall over. All right, so let me see. So this is my example that I made, and this is my picture. Woo, that I was just working on, and I'm gonna just sit here and finish drawing it, and I'll post a picture of it in the comments and on the Facebook page so that y'all see what I did, but I want to see what y'all drew because I love seeing that other people are drawing along with me. It's very encouraging and it makes my day so much better. So if you drew along with me, you can post it in the comments of this video. You can also post it to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and use our hashtag BoothMuseum so that we can see it on Instagram. You can also tag us in the picture so that that also makes sure that we see it. And then we've been posting some of the pictures that y'all draw to social media, so if you post it online, you might get shared on the museum page, which is really cool. So I will be here again next week. Same place, the Facebook Live format on the Booths page, and it'll be April 28th, so next Tuesday. So I'm doing this every Tuesday, and it'll be at the same time, 10:45 a.m. And Patty will also be talking about giving another art and book recommendation right before this video, which will give you a hint of what I'm going to talk about today, and it will inspire my drawing. So very excited about it. Well, that's all the time I've got, and I've got to skedaddle, so thank you so much. This has been wonderful. Thank you for joining me and the museum as we work to share America's story. Have an artful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!